Good morning, humble practitioners. I don't know what week it is at this point. We missed a week. The last time we met, we were looking at kneeling mountain, which is a very basic pose. Several things build off of that. I want to build off of that today and take it a little further. The pose we're going to get to is something I call suspended Virasana. Virasana looks like this. You actually sit between your feet. I'm not going all the way down there. I've got a block there. But you sit here, and what happens with most people is their legs go dead here. They don't use them, if they can even get here. Often knees hurt, ankles hurt. There's too much stiffness in the joints, and there's not enough life in these legs to really be here. So the whole thing goes down. There's not much going on here, if they can even get here. So by working in suspended Virasana, we're going to start a kneeling mountain and actually move toward this pose and back up out of it. And by doing that, what happens is people can start to work in the range of motion they have. Maybe they go very low, or maybe they just go a little bit if they have range of motion issues or tightness in the knee. And what I do find by doing this is that people who do have that kind of tightness in the knee and they work very limited at first, they're actually doing the same thing as everybody else, which is nice. But they also start to gain range of motion as they learn to wake up these muscles in the legs so that the legs are alive in the pose instead of collapsed. So people either can collapse into this pose or they're so tight they can't even get into the pose. So we work in suspended Virasana in movement to wake these legs up. So things you will need for this: a blanket to cushion the knees and the toes. As we move toward the heels, the toes might get really hard on the floor. So I do recommend putting something under here if you find that the floor is pretty hard on your feet. And blocks. Now you can use, as we had last week, this block is 4 inches wide if I set it this way, 6 inches wide if I set it this way. Either of these tends to work for most people. If you have that skinnier block, that might be useful here. You do want 2 blocks or a block and a towel. So I'll show you how you use all that. And I think, yeah, that's everything. So the first block, like we did before, goes between the feet. You want to feel it from toe to heel. You want to try and bring the bony parts of your ankle into the block, waking up the lower leg. Same instructions: thighs press down, thighs press forward, hug the block, and as you move, this is where it gets tricky. We sit toward the heels, and we come back up, and we don't want anything down here to move. What mostly happens, the most common thing that happens, laying out, ankles go way off the block, heels fly apart. As that happens, the other thing that's going on is this nice lift in the legs drops to the floor. So now you have ankles that collapse and come back up, or maybe they never come back up. And I'll tell you, if the ankles are really collapsed on the floor, you'll see really hard lines here, hard creases. There are some creases naturally on the back of the Achilles when you're here, some just gentle creases, but if they're really look like a fold almost, that ankle's too low. So we want to try and bring the ankle up just a little bit off the floor, hug the block, and imagine that there's some weight on your shins. So as I sit toward my shins, I resist up with my shins. It's almost like I'm squeezing my thighs and my shins toward each other. The shins are lifting, not the feet and ankles, the shin bones, and the thighs are pressing toward the feet. So thighs are going down, shins are lifting. And then the thighs come forward to bring you up. And the shins stay put. We don't let the heels fly in and out. We try and minimize that drop. I know I'm probably going up and down a little tiny bit, but compared to how I used to flop to the floor, this is highly improved. So that used 1 block. What's the other block for? As you're doing this, you may discover this is pretty hard across the metatarsal. There's a lot of weight going there. So we want to wake up the legs a little further. You can either place your second block way up high between your thighs, and you really want to be high up there. It's possible that this will feel too wide. If you have a skinnier block, you might want to go here. You just don't want to have to bring your knees together to squeeze it. That would be too skinny. And if, I'll turn this really wide, if it makes your knees go apart, it's too wide. So you still want to be able to keep your knees, so you still want to be able to keep your thighs parallel, and I'm having trouble with this block, so this is where I could use a towel instead. It looks like it's wider across, but because it's a towel, I actually can still squeeze in quite a bit without my knees going in, and that's essential. We don't want to squeeze from the knee, we want to squeeze in at the top of the thigh. That work will make your legs work harder and take pressure off the balls of the feet, the metatarsals rather. So that work of squeezing in here will take some pressure off the metatarsal. It'll also make your legs work harder. So we're squeezing the block, we're pressing down through the knees, we're hugging this block, including with the ankles, and we keep the ankles where they are. Don't let them drop down, they don't go onto the floor, and we go down and up. So I haven't even talked about breath. I've talked a whole lot about alignment of the lower legs and getting these legs woken up. I like to exhale down, inhale up, because as you exhale you're folding, and as you inhale you're opening this front of the body back up. You could justify inhaling down and exhaling up, because that's a lot of the effort, is the coming up. So play with how you like to breathe, but go down on one part of the breath and up on the other. I will tell you, I feel my quadriceps more than anything, but I do feel my calves and my hamstrings and my glutes. And I'll just offer you one last piece of information, because this is a lot. We're hugging the block, we're pressing down, we're squeezing in, all this good stuff. As we go down, don't let your spine go down. So we want to reach up through the spine. Even if you tip forward a little, you still have lift in your spine as you lower towards your feet. I'm getting really tired because I've done like, I don't know, 30 of these right now, just talking to you. 10 would be plenty. After you do this, you're probably going to want to get these feet back to this position. You could even take your legs back here into incline. We haven't learned that yet, but we will, just to get those calves to extend in the other direction, so that these calf muscles, instead of being contracted, they extend. You can even just walk around to create that release. Usually if you only do 10, you won't have quite that feeling afterward. I did an awful lot. So see what happens. Try 10 of these. See what standing feels like after you do that. See what sitting in a chair feels like after you do that. Legs should be very tired but very awake. And as always, if it hurts, if it drains you, if it feels like this isn't good for some unknown reason even, don't do it. Do one of the other practices. Or just be content to sit and look around and enjoy your day. I will see you next time on the Humble Practice. It's Lynn, Shuck, and I'm out of here. Bye.